Stephen. Welcome back to This Is Horror.
Man, I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I believe the last time that we spoke, it was around 2.5 years ago. So I wonder what have been the biggest changes for you, both personally and professionally, in that time?
Man, yeah, let me think. Um, um, Accrued various injuries. That's probably the personal thing, I'm always in ice and all kinds of pills and drugs, just when you do stupid stuff, you get hurt. So I get hurt a lot. Professionally, let me think. I'm teaching at Stanford right now. That's different. Um, I was at CU Boulder last time I talked to you. I'm just out here spot teaching for a while, but it's pretty cool living in California.
Yeah, what brought you to Stanford?
Oh, just to come teach they have these this program, the Wallace Stegner program, and they have Stegner fellows. It's kind of like a postdoc in fiction, and so it's students who generally already have a terminal degree coming to write a book, basically. And so I work with them. It's a good time.
So how much of your time are you spending in Stamford kind of area, and how much are you then
Mhm.
spending back in Boulder, Colorado?
None in Boulder. I haven't been to Boulder for a while. I won't be
Oh,
back in Boulder.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
until I think I get back there May, maybe the end of April, something like that.
So are you now living in California?
I am, yeah, yeah,
Okay. And
yeah.
does that, as well as the teaching, does that bring any other opportunities regarding the writing? I mean, obviously,
No.
California and Hollywood is the capital in terms of film and cinema.
Yeah, yeah. It's just different people I have lunch with because it seems like I have so many friends who live in all these little towns around here, the San Jose, San Carlos, everything is saying something out here, and I keep finding more and more people that I know. And so it's a good time, and I'm doing a little kind of like a mini tour out here on the West Coast, starting I don't know in a week and a half or something like that for Mannequins.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, in terms of Mannequins, so it originally came out a few years back, and now
Hmm.
it's been
Hmm.
re-released with a brand new cover, which looks
Yeah,
awesome, by the way.
I know they did
And
good.
yeah, yeah, I'm wondering why is it being re-released and why now?
I guess anytime a publisher does something, it's because they think there's a market for it. They think that this book can find a new audience. We can repackage it. It's got the same everything in the same on the inside. It does have that new wrapper, the new cover, and it was Tor.com, and now it's Nightfire. So it's got a different team behind it as well. I'm lucky. I'm getting to work with Kelly Lonesome. She was my editor for Mongrels back in 2016. So that's really cool.
So does this mean that there were some editorial changes that were made?
I don't think we didn't. I mean, Mannequins was in place already, and it's kind of like a Jenga tower of a book. And I'm afraid if I pull one thing out, it's going to fall down.
Yeah, yeah, no, I
Mm-hmm.
can certainly
Mm-hmm.
see that, and there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of meta layers to it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a hell of a lot of misdirection, and goodness, we're gonna get into all of that, but I suppose to set the stage, what is the origin story? Why did you originally sit down and write this one?
I wrote Mapping the Interior for Ellen Datlow in 2016, and it took me 4 days. And so in 2017, maybe 2018, probably 2018, she called me up. Ellen Datlow called me up, and she said, "Hey, why don't you do another novella for me? Mapping did pretty well." And I looked at my calendar. I thought I got 4 days, and so I sat down to jam out another novella real fast. But I screwed up and I went 4 weeks instead of 4 days, and I wrote a novel. And that novel was Killer on the Road. No, that was I think it was Babysitter Lives first. I wrote Babysitter Lives in that month, and I thought, well, that was weird. So I pushed it to the side and said, time to write a novella for Ellen Datlow. And so I screwed up again. Instead of going 4 days, I went 4 weeks, and I wrote Killer on the Road. And I was thinking, man, have I lost my novella muscles? I don't understand what's going on. So I pushed it to the side, and I told myself, this time you're going to stop at 115 pages, whether it's over or not. You're going to call it a novella. And so I wrote for 115 pages and stopped and found a line that was like a kind of a graceful exit and a ramp. And but then I realized I could add one more line to this novella and it would open up into a novel. And so I called up my literary agent, BJ Robbins, and I said, hey, I just wrote that thing for Ellen Datlow. Do you want me to keep it a novella or turn it into a novel? And she said, go ahead and turn it into a novel. Those are easier to sell. So I wrote the rest of that book. It probably took like, I don't know, 6 weeks, 8 weeks total. And that was the Only Good Indians. But then I pushed it to the side immediately and I said, I got to get that. I was still way before deadline, but I was way late for me, for getting Ellen Datlow this novella. And so then I sat down and the title Night of the Mannequins came to me and I thought, I'll do a version of Night of Living Dead just with mannequins. That'll be fun. But then that first line happened and I realized this was not a Night of the Living Dead type story. This is not like a horde of shambling mannequins coming up Main Street or anything. This is kind of a slasher from the other side. And it was really fun. I liked it a lot. And it probably did take me, I don't know, 3 weeks. I have no memory. It's been so long, but it was probably like a 2 or 3 week book, I bet.
I love that the origin story
Mm.
basically starts with you inadvertently writing three novels before you
Yeah.
could write
Yeah.
this novella. And I mean, I think something that will be particularly interesting as we delve into the
Mm.
craft here is you're talking about writing novellas in 4 days, you're talking
Mm.
about writing novels in 4 weeks. So, can we get a little bit more detail as to what that looks like? Are you planning
Mm.
them? Are you just
Mm.
kind of going for it as you would on your
Yeah.
motorcycle?
Yeah, I'm
Um,
just or my bicycle. Yeah, I'm just going for it. I have no like none of those books I wrote. Babysitter Lives, Killer on the Road, The Only Good Indians. I had zero idea where any of those were going. Like Good Indians, I thought it was a novella until I had to write two more parts for it. And Night of the Mannequins, I had no idea how that was going to go. And I knew that since there was kind of a small friend group, I thought, well, that'll be like my supports throughout the timeline of this novel. Like we'll have somebody die here, die here, die here, but I had no idea who was going to die next, how they were going to die. Um, yeah, so I have no planning whatsoever. And to tell you the truth, I don't write that much. Like I don't sit at a computer for 8 hours and write. I found that my ideal writing session time is about maybe an hour and 40 minutes. After that, I can keep writing for 10 hours, no problem. But I'm going to have to throw like 8.5 hours away or just do so much work to rehab it that it's not worth it. So I'll write for an hour and a half, then I'll go ride my bike for 2 or 3 hours, and I'll come back and write for another hour and a half, then I'll go play pool for a couple hours. And just, I like to cut it up and do other stuff. Or I like, really, when I'm writing books, I like to watch Magnum PI and Rockford Files. That's my two favorite things, man.
So, I mean, really, what we're talking about for a novella, then I'm guessing we're
Mm.
looking at between 4.5 or 6 hours per day,
Yeah.
depending on how you've kind of split it
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and then does that get you your first draft, or are we
Mm.
to, or have we?
Mm.
Because I know
Mm.
that you write quickly.
Yeah.
Is this
Yeah.
multiple
Yeah.
drafts that you've done in those 4
Yeah.
days?
No, it's not multiple drafts, but both Mapping the Interior and Night of the Mannequins came out pretty much whole. I believe Ellen Dello had a few questions for me that I answered in the story of Mapping the Interior, and there were probably some little things with Night of the Mannequins, but there was no big overhauls at all. It was what it was. Like when something's that short to me, I think well, if it's broken, I'll just throw it away. I don't need to put all the work into fixing it. I mean, I do revision. I'm in revision right now for another thing, but I so prefer to write new things than revising. Revising to me is just torture. I don't like it even a little bit, man.
Yeah, and I would certainly say as well
Mm.
from my experience and from chatting to other people, it just
Mm.
seems the more that we write, the less we have to revise anyway, because we kind of get
Mm.
a sense as to rhythm and composition and how to put all of this together.
Yeah, but it's not to say I don't screw up every single paragraph because I do. Not just typos, but like I make bad decisions, and so like I might write a 120-page novella, but talking about like revising while you go, which I always kind of question that. People say they edit as they go. I understand what they're saying, but I just call that writing. I don't call it revising as I go. It's just how you get forward. But um, since I don't know where I'm going in a story, then I have to try every alley. And some of those alleys are going to be dead ends. And so I have to back out of it and go back 12 pages and cut that out and then go forward again from that last branch point. So there's a whole lot of that in my novels and novellas and my stories as well. But the result of that is it I don't know, it helps me flesh out the world because those dead ends let me explore other parts of the story that then kind of exert a gravity on the main line and make it more real and stable. And I think it's all good. It seems it's a lot of work, but nobody said it'd be easy. I just try to keep it fun.
I feel like that, especially with this one here, that you always have this sense of momentum that if I could capture and if I could capture it and bottle it, I probably wouldn't sell it. I'd drink it all for myself. But to me, it's like the revision process would ruin that sense of momentum. It's
Yeah.
like you have to pop back and go, wait a second, I have to fix this. And I'm a discovery writer, just like yourself, and so I loved it. To me, that's like Zen is when I don't even have to think, when the words are just flowing. Now, obviously, you're going to go back and reread it, and a lot of times you might go, "Well, man, what the hell was I thinking? What was I doing?" But man, that moment, that momentum, you have to capture it.
Oh, I know.
I think
I totally
revision will
agree.
kill it every time.
It can't. Yeah, if you slow down, if you ever start like second guessing yourself, then you might as well just go do something else for the day. I think because you've got to like pretend like you're good enough to do this. That's what I've always found. Like you put a foot pump on your ego and you pump it up, and it'll last as long as like an hour and 40 minutes, and then you write something, and then it deflates, and you have to go do something else, and you find the pump again and pump it up like you're big enough to wrestle with beauty or art or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's something I was telling someone else a couple months ago is that, the writers that I admire, they put their whole chest into it. And so that's, and that's, you can sense it when you see it on the page. It's like, man, they are going into this
Yeah.
100%, and you have to have that confidence.
Yeah, that's why I think that's why Philip K. Dick is usually my favorite writer because everything he does, I feel like he put his whole heart into it. Everything feels sincere. Like I think he would get an assignment to write a novel over the next 3 days that he had to turn in really quick. 60,000 words or something, and so he jump into that with both feet, and he'd think this is just going to be a lark, but then it feels like 25 pages in, he's like, oh no, it's real again. I got to write my way out of this, and I really appreciate that a lot. That's what I always feel like in my things I'm writing is I've got to keep going fast because it's collapsing behind me and I just got to run,
Mm-hmm.
And I think something as well that we should note is, I mean, you're talking about the way you divide your day up, but we've said so many times that these times where we're not writing or we're taking a breather, even if you're not conscious of it, there's things going on in the background and in the unconsciousness. I've actually found before that the days where I try to do like an 8-hour slog, I mean, slog is the right word. It is not easy, and I'm actually less productive or at least less creative. But if I decide, okay, I'm taking a breather, I'm going for a walk, ideas and story solutions, they come to me. So I'm working on the story when I'm not working on the story.
No, you're totally right. Like put it on the back burner and it'll simmer on its own. That's what I found. But what I have found is when I hit the trail between writing sessions or I'm playing pool or whatever, if I listen to podcasts or audio novels, it's not the story's not simmering as much. If I listen to music or nothing, then I'm thinking. But if I'm thinking about like, some esoteric podcast that's talking about film or an audio novel that I love, a story I love, then that kind of uses the same muscles I was using when I was writing, And so what I've got to do is let those muscles do their own thing. And, but luckily there's lots of good music, so it's not a big deal,
Yeah, I've never thought about it in those terms before, but that's exactly the way it is for me. And so either what will happen if I'm listening to an audiobook, then either I'm not thinking about my own writing or I'll realize that 20 minutes have gone past and I haven't a clue what's going on in this audiobook because I've
For
been
sure.
thinking about something else.
For sure, man. For sure. Yeah.
But I mean, I mentioned the misdirection, and you certainly alluded to this because the misdirection begins with the title, Night of the Mannequins. I mean, first of all, it conjures up this kind of George A. Romero or kind of B movie horror, but it actually isn't at all. I mean, what you're doing, what you're doing, it's difficult to talk about without jumping into to spoilers. So we are going to have to
Yeah.
skirt around it, but it's very much a different piece, a more serious piece, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it's when I'm doing something that's like over the top violent, then I always want to like counterbalance it with some sense of tenderness or wonder or something like that. Because things that are just unremittingly grim, I have to ask myself, why would somebody want to engage that? They want a beating heart in the middle somewhere, and so that's kind of the fun part of horror to me. I mean, I love to splash blood on the walls, but I like to sneak feelings in as well.
Yeah, and then the second part of misdirection is sentence number one. So Shanna got a new job at the movie theater. We thought we'd play a fun prank on her, and now most of us are dead, and I'm really starting to feel kind of guilty about it all. First of all, what a fucking amazing hook.
Oh, thank you.
And I mean, I need to ask, what is your approach to writing hooks and opening sentences? And is this also one of the kind of parts where you spend the longest amount of time just thinking or looking at that blank page? Because you nailed it.
No, thank you very much. Hook lines, yes, I mean, sometimes you have to wait for them. Generally, though, what I try to do is just sit down at the keyboard with a completely empty mind, a blank slate, and I just kind of let my fingers figure something out, and they figure it out. And all I've got to do is not delete it. It's hard not to delete stuff because you want to say that wasn't good enough. I could have done better. But that's how Night of the Mannequins happened. Like that, I think that's how I did Long Trial of Nolan Dugatti too. I had no idea what the novel was going to be, and I sit down, and the first line of that is what I remember best about my father are the suicide notes, and that gave me the structure of the whole book right there. And like this little preview that Sawyer's given kind of sketches it gestures at a space we're going to walk into, and I wonder, right around this time I was teaching I think I taught a lecture class, a creative writing, kind of an intro to creative writing, but it was for a big classroom. And I went through and kind of created I don't know what you call it, a taxonomy or something of different types of opening lines. And previews like this were one of them. It's a really common one people do. Like 100 Years of Solitude does it really well. And there's all kinds of different ones. There's ones that are really shocking and that like jolt you out of your seat. I got to know the rest of that. And I forget what they all are. I've got a list of them, or I've got a big slideshow of them somewhere. And it's really fun. I love to think about hook lines. I think the best hook line person, the best writer of hook lines in novels is for my money, it's Toni Morrison. Like every time she put pen to paper at the front of a book, she struck gold,
Yeah, I'd like to. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, please, Bob.
I was going to say that somebody brought up at a conference one time hook lines, and it made me want to read the books. And like probably the most memorable one is in one of John D. McDonald's books and one of his Travis McGee novels. And to me, I was like, because this just makes you want to read more. It's like we were about to call it a night when someone dropped the girl off the bridge. Yeah. And I'm like, wow. Shit. Wow. Okay. Where are you? What do you mean? I was like, what do you mean? And you just keep on going and you realize, you get, but golly, I mean, it's like, hey, I'm going to crank your motor right now, press start and go. And that's, I mean, I want to be able to put that on the page, but a different way,
Yeah. Oh, I 100% agree. I just pulled up my slideshow. I've got a lot of my favorite ones here. I won't read them all to you, but I think one of the most famous ones we have in the world of novels is probably Call Me Ishmael. That Moby Dick. It's so good because it's got so much packed into it, because it's telling you, when it says Call Me Ishmael, what that means is I'm not Ishmael, and so that's the hook right there, and we're in it, and it's just 3 words. That's Call Me Ishmael. Yeah, 3 words. It blows me away, man.
Yeah, and in this particular hook that you've got, you also, you put the prank right up there, front and center. So there's immediate intrigue as to, how is this prank gone so wrong that most of us are dead. I like that most of us are dead too, because like, well, hang on, not all of us are dead. What's happening here? And they're feeling kind of guilty about it. They're not 100. So there's so much. But I gotta say, in terms of pranks, I mean, pranks and slashers, they go hand in hand.
Yeah,
I mean, if there wasn't
yeah.
a prank, there wouldn't be a Scream movie franchise. There wouldn't be
Hmm.
the vast majority of
Yeah,
slasher movies. So it's
yeah.
this playfulness that, I mean, it's almost what makes the slasher unique and special in terms of subgenres within horror.
No, I totally agree. The prank is essential to the slasher, and sometimes a prank takes the like shape of a trespass, or but it's always like you can frame it as a prank if that's how I like to frame it, anyways, because it makes it more fun. But yeah, if you don't have a prank, then you don't have an imbalance of the justice scales, and if you don't have that imbalance of justice scales, then you don't have any reason for a spirit of vengeance to come and straighten those scales.
And so I wonder, taking it to real life, what is the
Hmm.
best or the worst prank gone wrong
Mm.
that you have been part of, whether you were the instigator, the
Oh,
victim,
wow.
or somewhere in
Yeah.
between?
Yeah, the probably the worst one I've been involved in is I have like in high school, I had a friend who was terrified of trains. He has had this like irrational fear of trains. And so one night we're coming home in Stanton, Texas, and it's probably about 2 a.m. And I had a short bed Chevy, 67 short bed Chevy, and I was driving, and we had some train tracks that cut through town, and it was kind of up on a hump, at a big intersection. That the train tracks were up on a, what do they call it? Anyway, they were you had to go kind of up and down, and and he was kind of like nodding off. He wasn't all the way awake. And so I gently eased the truck onto those tracks and killed it. And I woke him up real fast, and I said, dude, we're on the tracks. What's gonna happen? And he woke up, and he woke up at 100 miles per hour. He was terrified. He was having a panic attack over there in the side of my truck, and I thought that was the most hilarious thing ever. And I let that go on for a while until he was all the way awake. And then I reached down and turned the key to start my truck to go on home, and the truck wouldn't start. And then a light pops on right down the tracks because the train is coming, and the barriers came down on either side of the truck. And so we're trying to start the truck, and the train is coming, and the truck finally started, but I had to do like a 42-point turn to get around those arms that come down, and it quit being funny pretty quickly.
Oh my God, you were so close to being part of a Final Destination movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
I mean, you wanted to give him a scare. You
Yeah.
you went the extra mile. You really delivered.
Yeah.
Did he still hang out with you after that?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We're he's. I think he's the only person. Is he? He's the only person in high school I still talk to. I haven't talked to him for about 5 months, but we still talk. Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, that is the test of a true friendship. If you can
Mm-hmm.
almost get mowed down by a train. Did it cure his fear at least?
No, no,
No,
no.
it
It
just
just, it
intensified.
just, it just
Yeah.
magnified his distrust of me.
Oh my goodness. And I mean, in terms of we've got the pranks, but the other
Mhm,
element, of course, is mannequins, something that is inherently creepy.
mhm,
Another thing that goes hand in hand with horror. So,
mhm,
do
mhm.
you remember when you first saw a mannequin in horror?
Oh, in horror? Oh, let me
Or
think
in
about that.
general? Because I don't
I
know,
think,
you
I think in
ex
horror,
mm,
yeah. The first one I saw in horror would probably have been Tourist Trap.
Yep.
From is that 79, about right around there?
I
Yeah,
think so. 77, 79.
yeah,
Chuck
yeah,
Connors. That's
yeah,
I watched
yeah.
it again last year. It's probably like the fifth time I've seen it, and it's
Yeah, it's fun,
it's
isn't it,
very
man?
disturbing
Yeah, it
movie.
is. It
Very,
is,
very,
man.
very
It is.
disturbing.
But I think my first personal brush with mannequins would have been when I was probably, I don't know, maybe 4 years old, maybe not quite 4 years old. We have a store out in West Texas. We used to back in the 70s called Dunlaps, Dunlap apostrophe S. Did y'all have that down in South Texas, Bob?
No,
Dunlaps
we
like
didn't
a
have it. I mean, I think I've heard of it,
yeah,
and I think we might have seen it in our travels, but I
yeah,
never
yeah,
had it
yeah.
in town.
It's just a department store,
Right.
like a Dillard's and a Montgomery Ward's or a Bell's, all that stuff.
Mhm.
Anyways, my mom went there to try on clothes, and she, pulled me along with her, and she parked me outside the dressing room while she went and changed clothes. and there was mannequins all around like they do on the podiums and everything. And they were kind of creepy, but I wasn't creeped out. But then while I'm sitting there just waiting for my mom to finish trying on all these clothes, she starts screaming and screaming and screaming, and the whole store collapses on the dressing room. And what it turns out that while she was changing clothes in there, a scorpion had bit her, and so I think, and I didn't really understand what was going on. I was too young to really make sense of it all. And the sales associates were trying to, keep me safe and happy and all that stuff. But maybe that could be where mannequins got into my head,
So when it happened, did your brain go to this place where you thought a mannequin had attacked her? Was that your initial?
No, I wish I could say that, but no, it was more like there were mannequins in the area and she was screaming. I didn't make the connection,
Yeah. Oh my God. It's kind of changing and getting bit by a scorpion. Is that a regular occurrence? Kind of near.
Well, there's
Yeah.
in West Texas. There's a lot of scorpions, a lot of centipedes, a lot of tarantulas, and those are all things you can deal with. The wind scorpions, those things are the dangerous ones. They call them camel spiders when they're bigger out in the Middle East, But the little ones, I think, to me, the little ones are meaner. The same way with actual scorpions. The littler the scorpion is, generally the more dangerous it is, as I understand. I haven't tested it myself. I've only read that, but the real thing to be worried about in West Texas sneaking into your house are rattlesnakes, of course, because anywhere a mouse can go, a snake can go. And when it gets cold, the snakes like to come into like schools or stores, and they crawl up the walls and go on the ceilings and sleep on top of the warm lights. And sometimes you'll turn the light on and you'll see a snake up there, or they like to go under the dishwashers too. And so you'll sometimes smell them down there, and they just like to den up. And it's not great, but I don't know. It's the way it is.
Yeah, like I feel you're far more exposed to dangerous animals than I have been in my life. I mean, in England, there's basically nothing. And then, even moving to Japan, I mean, there are bears and things like that, but they're up in the mountains. Although recently there have been more and more of them coming down into town.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's neat. That's neat.
And we have centipedes and stuff, but they don't wander into the changing rooms. So
Really?
I've not had that experience yet.
Well, we would periodically, like not every year, but every few years, I guess the tarantulas are on some schedule. They hang out underground until they all come up at once, and so the first time that happened, I was probably like 8 years old, and I remember driving down the road with my granddad, and the road was washed like sun bleached gray. It wasn't black anymore. The whole road was black and crawling for as far as we could see, because they were moving from one pasture to another. It had to be like 3 million tarantulas, and we didn't want to run over them because they're pretty little things, but we had to get somewhere too, so we just had to churn through the tarantulas, But it was weird seeing that many tarantulas at once, man.
Yeah, I would have turned around and went back. I don't like bugs. I mean, I understand that, the spiders are necessary, right? But, I don't, especially flying bugs, especially like wasp, any bug that can hover like a helicopter, I'm fucking out, man. If you want to see me freak out, it's like, I'm not afraid of much, but if I get around a wasp or something like that, it's like, what's wrong with Bob? He was screaming like a girl. Like, yeah, because I was freaked out because of a fucking wasp.
I got chewed up by wasps pretty bad last summer. I was reaching up under my Jeep to do something to the back of the gas cap or something up there, and I hadn't driven this Jeep for a couple of months, and so I'm like down on a knee and I'm reaching up there, and I think my hand sure is cold, and then after about 4 seconds I realized it's not cold, it's like on fire, because I'd stuck my hand into a wasp nest and they were all biting me. But I think that's the way wasps, like their venom or whatever they have must be designed like that, because it doesn't hit you for like 2 or 3 seconds, and then it hits you. But that allows more of them to pile on and get you at the same time. And but I didn't swell up too bad. I've had wasps bite me in the lip and the eye. They've bit me all over. One morning I woke up. We were building this house as we were living in it, and so when we moved into it, it's pretty much frame and tar paper, so that it was open to the elements. And I remember one morning I woke up to that same coldness, and wasps had all come in and landed on my neck, and I had moved like this and they all were biting me on the neck.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. But the ones I was scared of are the ones that hang around peach trees, those Mexican wasps, which they have another name. I never can remember it. They have a more formal name, but they're those big black dudes that are like that big, and they have the orange wings. Those guys, I've never met one of those. My mom has, and she says it hurts crazy. Um, but I watch the people on YouTube who like to let insects bite them and record it, and that's usually like the number two worst one. I think is that wasp.
Yeah, and it's they can sting you repeatedly. That's the thing that bugs me more than anything else. A bee, you
Yeah.
get stung by a bee, the bee's going to die because the stinger's
Hmm.
barbed. But
Hmm.
wasp stingers are smooth, and so they can just drag
Yeah.
it all over you.
Yeah,
And
I mean, if we could figure out if we could get them little ink pots, they could be tattoo artists. They could do little designs on us.
man,
That's why the Tracker Jackers and the Hunger Games were so scary because they were like wasps on steroids and radiation and everything else.
wow.
Mhm.
You give me ideas.
Well, since we're talking about violence in a sense, I
Mhm.
want to
Mhm.
know, how do you approach writing about violence?
Man, how do I approach that? Um, I think I don't let myself look away, um, and I try to turn on as many senses as I can. But more important, those are just like outer things. I think the internal thing you have to do is not let it be violence for violence's sake. It has to have some story meaning, some story purpose. It's the same as a sex scene. Like a sex scene in a story just for the sex is a failure. I think if the sex scene is some sort of negotiation or power play or whatever's going on, then it matters. Then it earns its place on the page. And I think it's the same with violence. It has to earn its place on the page.
Yeah, and I think similarly, without giving spoilers away, so
Mhm.
treading pretty carefully, I mean, a lot of this book is about the desensitization of violence and mental health struggles.
Mhm.
And I mean, a real dangerous and prescient combination. And in a way, I feel this is perhaps even more relevant now in 2026 than it was when you originally released it a few years back.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. I like that. That's pretty cool. But yeah, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I don't disagree. It wasn't intentional, but it's just that's the way Sawyer is. So he came on the page like that.
Yeah, yeah. And so that, I mean, I did want to ask in terms of, I mean, you said you don't plan ahead when you're writing, but
Mhm.
how much did you know about Sawyer going in? And if not a lot, then at what
Mhm.
point did Sawyer's nature, let's say, become
Yeah,
apparent?
you know, yeah, that's a good question. It's probably when he goes to see Tim. That's when I was like, this guy has some things going on. Because I mean, I felt like I knew him in a way in the theater when he thinks he's seeing, or when he is, or he thinks he is seeing Manny leave, and the lights go down, and he feels like he's untethered and floating. I felt like that was a moment where I really thought this is somebody I can work with. But I felt like I didn't know his nature until he went to Tim's house a few nights later.
And it occurs to me as you're saying that we haven't
Mhm.
actually told people. So for those who haven't read it yet and they're
Mhm.
interested in reading it, we haven't told them what that opening prank is.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was assuming, right? It's there's Sawyer's cousin Shanna has a usher job at a movie theater, a Cineplex, her, and Sawyer and some of Shanna's friends are going to prank her by sneaking a mannequin into the theater, and then saying, "Hey, that guy didn't pay his ticket," and Shanna would go check on him to get his ticket stub, and he would be a mannequin. That'd be hilarious. And it's a mannequin they found randomly a few summers before, and it was a big fun thing for a while. Then they forgot about it, like you do.
Yeah, it is an amazing prank. And
Yeah.
so at least somebody listening has got to try this out.
It was complicated though, getting that mannequin into the theater past the
Yeah,
ushers. Yeah.
yeah.
Because I mean,
Yeah.
nowadays, like as when I wrote this in 2018, and so we were already living in the world we're living in right now, pretty much. And you can't bring backpacks and stuff like that. You know, you've got to hide the pieces of the mannequin under your baggy clothes and do it in other ways. Like they figure it out, they navigate it, but it takes a lot of work.
I think it would be way easier to do in Japan because Japan
Mm-hmm.
is quite a trusting culture.
Really? Oh, nice.
Often, even though there is an usher on the front entrance, there's
Uh-huh.
not one on the exit if there's a film that's not ending.
Oh,
So you could literally just walk in with the mannequin and get to the screens that way.
wow, that's
I'm not
cool.
condoning it for anyone living in Japan, but you
Yeah,
could do
yeah,
that. Then you could get the
yeah.
usher and be like, "Whoa, check out City
That's nice.
A24, for
Yeah,
example."
that's nice.
It'd have to be A24 for
Yeah,
the whole.
probably.
Yeah,
But the fun thing is that like seeing a mannequin out of context will startle you. You know, if you're not expecting it, it'll get to you. Man.
mannequin out of context. I
Yeah.
just love that as a phrase. And
Mm.
I mean, obviously, we mentioned the Romero nod.
Mhm.
Sawyer has to be a nod, surely, to Toby Hooper and Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, a little bit. He like in my head. Every time I wrote Sawyer, I heard Family Saw. Like he's got a family and his name is Saw, so he was the Family Saw. You know.
Yeah. And I mean, there is a shift and a reveal at around the 65% mark, and
Mhm.
that really changes the tone of the book. I mean,
Mhm.
it's something on rereads where you can
Mhm.
see, okay, I see how it was kind of going in that
Mhm.
direction all
Mhm.
along. But how did you approach the shift? And was that something that then did require quite a bit of editing to just make sure that it landed right?
Not really. No, I mean, I think what happened, and this usually happens in the longer things I write. I get to about that point, about 2/3 through, and I think this isn't exciting enough. We gotta drop a bomb, you know. And so I just I'll drop some sort of bomb into the story. I mean, not like in the stand because I don't want everybody to die, you know. But and I just like to drop it, but it's not a test drop. That's the rule I give myself. I can't just see if it works. I've got to drop it, and the novel either dies here or it figures out a way to incorporate it. You know, and that's really fun.
And so, in terms of dropping the bomb, as
Hmm.
you put
Hmm.
it, I mean,
Hmm.
how many times has it died? And what do you do
Yeah,
in the situation where it dies?
that's a good point. It's I guess one thing that would be like that would influence my decision would be, is this a work that I've already promised to someone? If it is, then I might have to go back and break my own rule and undo the bomb or something. I don't know. I don't think I've ever had any of them die though, because I feel like if they die, then I'm failing at my own challenge, you know, because I'm telling myself I've got to incorporate it, I've got to make it work, and I did it in Mapping the Interior too. Probably about the same point in the story, actually, maybe about 55% in that story, but um, I love to do things that to me are kind of out of the blue and then have to figure out after they happened, how do I make that work? Or how do I make that something that did work? And it's so challenging and it's so, you learn a lot about yourself as a writer, I think, when you make yourself do that, you know?
See, I like this because essentially the answer is failure isn't an option.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much, man. Yeah, yeah. But by that point, too, I've fallen in love with the characters in the world enough that, yes, failure is not an option because I want to hold on to them. I want them to be shared with other people, you know?
And when you're teaching creative
Mm.
writing, I mean, how do you drill or how do you impart just the importance of this fearlessness and taking risks in your writing?
I try to model it. I mean, I try to tell them the same stuff I'm telling y'all. Like, this is how I write, and you know, it's been a long time not working. I don't think, and maybe it's hit some point where it occasionally works. But I always push them to do the stupidest, wildest, over the top stuff they can, and I think you just learn so much. Like, tell you the truth, I don't get a whole lot out of really quiet, subdued stories. You know, I mean, I can read them, I can study them, I can analyze them, but give me something loud and I'll be a lot happier, you know?
And when you're teaching these courses, is the nature of the student that is attracted to your classes? Are
Mhm.
they typically writing things that are more within horror
Yeah.
or action genres?
Well, within genre, anyways. You know, when I first started teaching back in 2000, I had to put a little disclaimer at the top of my syllabus that in here in this workshop, you're going to write at least one genre story. It might be science fiction, it might be horror, it might be fantasy, it might be werewolves, it might be whatever, but you're going to do one story like that. And invariably, two or three hands would go up, and they would say, "Really, I'm going to write a pirate story?" And I'd say, "Yeah, you're going to write something like that." And I would generally have two or three students walk out like in protest and drop the class, but it didn't matter because I always had a big wait list. Other people filed in. But about 2008, there was some sort of change. I don't know what it was, or I suspect what it was. But around 2008, um, students started coming and only writing genre. Hardly any of my undergrads ever write literary fiction anymore. It's all, with a photon blaster on an asteroid shooting spaceships, that kind of stuff, or a lot of fantasy, really, a whole lot of fantasy, a lot of young adult. And so I was able to take that off my syllabus, and I'm really happy. And I'm pretending like this is like a unilateral thing across all programs. It could be that it took me that long to become established in the program I was teaching in as the genre person. So I could be attracting all the genre people. I'm like a lint roller that picks up all the horror and science fiction and fantasy people.
The lint roller of horror literature.
Yeah, but I do think that, I suspect that why genre became the default setting. I feel like it might have had something to do with the brief, wondrous life of Oscar Wilde by Junot Diaz, which was, unabashedly in love with genre stuff. Oscar Wilde, he's a comic book dude, and he lives in that world and he breathes in that world. And that, I think the book won the Pulitzer, and that kind of gave genre a legitimacy that it maybe hadn't had a lot before. And I think, when did The Road happen? Do y'all remember what year The Road was? Cormac McCarthy? I don't remember. I wonder if it was. It feels like I don't know. I just can't
I feel
remember
like it's
anymore.
like 2005.
Yeah, that's what
But
it feels like to me too. It feels early 2000s to me. Yeah.
yeah,
But it's a post-apocalyptic novel by one of our most celebrated literary writers, and I wonder if like The Road and Oscar Wilde were like a one-two punch. Really um, getting genre on the scene in a different way. I don't know.
Yeah, the road was
2006.
too. There you go. Bob
All
got
right.
there just before me.
Mhm.
2006. Yeah.
And I
So.
said it just before it came out too. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that genre is continuing to get more
Mhm.
legitimacy?
I do. I feel like the way I always think about it is, I think of all the John. I think of all of literature as like a circus. We're all ridiculous clowns running around doing our jokes, but I think there's a big tent in the middle of the circus grounds, the fairgrounds, and that's usually literary fiction. And then there's little satellite tents. There's fantasy, science fiction, western, spy, historical, thriller, all that stuff, and horror, a lot of horror. But I feel that of all those satellite tents, horror was always way out in the darkness, and I felt like other people, the other genres, were standing around, eating popcorn at the fairgrounds, looking out at our lights in the darkness, and saying, "Let's let those weirdos just keep doing their weirdo things." They're doing blood gags to scare each other. They don't matter. They are doing books, but they don't matter in the same way we matter. But I feel like, man, right around 2016, when I guess when Jordan Peele, was that 2016? Yeah, I think it was 2016 when he had Get Out. That established or signaled to the world at large that horror is in dialogue with current contemporary issues, and the world turned around and noticed. And then Victor Laval gives us the Ballad of Black Tom, which did the same exact thing. That was I think that was just a few months later. And I think those two works really did a great thing for genre, or for horror specifically. They um, pulled us all into the big tent, more or less. And now that we're in the big tent, we're having fun. We're piling out of clown cars and piling into other clown cars and fighting lions and all that. And it's great. Um, but it's weird too. It's weird being in the big tent. I think it's not
Mhm.
where we're accustomed to being outsiders. We're accustomed to looking in, at the legitimate stuff. But now we have a little bit of that legitimacy ourselves, and who knows what we're going to do with it? Hopefully, something good. My only concern about that dynamic is, for the longest time, the horror community, we had a sense of solidarity because nobody else wanted us, and so we wanted each other, kind of, that kind of thing. But um, now that other people outside of horror are looking at horror, I hope that solidarity that we've had for so long doesn't go away.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think that's a great analogy too,
Mhm.
because it feels like ever since, like the circus and having
Mhm.
the little satellite tents and all that kind of stuff, and
Mhm.
over the last since 2016, horror has slowly like, hey, can we borrow some tent poles? And I need that. I need that canvas right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks. And we just did
Mhm.
our own little thing. And next thing you
Mhm.
know, they're like going, hey, their tent's bigger than ours. I'm just going to go there. Don't say anything. Come
Yeah,
along if
yeah.
you want. And that's what we're getting.
Mhm.
But I also feel you on the solidarity thing.
Mhm.
I hope it
Yeah,
continues on.
yeah.
Um, and it's we're at a probably the biggest horror renaissance that I've ever seen, and I'm
Mhm.
58, so I've seen three of them.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I've,
Mhm.
and so it's I hope we can ride it through.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. I mean, what I think that, like, everybody is worried about horror like being a fad because fads fall down. They get too heavy and fall down, like monster trucks or hair metal in the '80s. They both got too big and fell down. But I think what might give horror longer legs than it would usually have is that it's not all focused on one person. It's not like there's not a central pole. I guess there's a lot of poles because diverse voices are now telling a lot of the horror. So I think the foundation for this current moment of horror is a lot more stable. So many people who were previously marginalized are telling some of the best horror stories, and and I think that's gonna let this boom, this renaissance, whatever we want to call it, I think it's going to let it last longer. And I think even, the same way the zombie renaissance started in like 2002 with 28 Days Later and Brian Keene's, The Rising. And it should have probably gone over by 2010. But what had happened by 2010 was the Walking Dead TV show had taken over the world. And that became something that propped up the zombie renaissance for artificially long, so long. But, and it not to anything's detriment, it was a blast. I'm not at all sad about it. I love it. But I think that's what our really strong, diverse foundation for the current moment in horror is going to do for horror. It's going to let it last longer than it would have otherwise.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and I think as well, not only are we seeing literary fiction embrace horror to a
Mm,
point, but we're also seeing, I mean, I think it was a few weeks ago, George Saunders did an event with Paul Tremblay. So, they're
yeah, yeah,
coming
yeah,
together. And
yeah.
also, Tin House put out Mystery Lights, the short story
Mm,
collection by Lena Valencia, which again is definitely
nice.
a genre
Yeah,
collection. I mean,
yeah. And I think that guy who wrote Monstrilio also came out of the Tin House workshops, anyways. And Monstrilio is pretty good. It's very literary, very good. I think.
yeah, yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Tin House have recently been sending me press releases and asking about getting people on This As Horror. That would not have
Excellent.
happened when we started in 2013.
No, that would not have all have happened. You're totally right, man. Yeah.
But I mean, talking again about Night of the Mannequins, you've said before that often Ellen Datlow either gives you a note or says
Mm-hmm.
something that helps shape the direction of a story or inspires you. So I'm wondering,
Mm-hmm.
what was the Ellen Datlow influence for Night of the Mannequins?
Man, let me think. Um, I honestly do not remember. It's been 8 years since I've looked at those notes, so I have zero memory of. I know she had some input because she always has wonderful input, and I love how Ellen is so direct. Like, she doesn't mince her words. She'll tell you, "Well, why'd you do this? It's stupid," and I'm like, I don't know. I guess I'm stupid. It could be, but it's good to work with someone like that. I think she's on top of the anthology game and the editor game for a reason. But I don't. I just have no memory about the revision process. I've probably done, I don't know, 13 or 12 books since then, or I don't know, maybe 10. But and so they've all piled on each other. And I wish I was one of those people who wrote books to remember them, but I don't. I write books kind of to forget them, so I can do the next
Right.
book and forget it, and then do the next one and forget it. I don't have enough room in my head to store them all, I guess.
Yeah, this is the kind of danger of when we're
Hmm.
promoting and we're talking about our books. It's like, well, the one fresh in my mind is the one that I'm writing
Yeah,
now, which will probably be
yeah.
released in 2 years. But
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that's how it always is, man. Yeah, yeah. But so people tell me things about my novels, and I think, well, that's a pretty good idea. I should do that. And then I think, wait, you must have done that if they're telling it to you.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah. Have you found that in recent years your approach to marketing has shifted? I mean,
Yeah, I've got a lot of different whole like I've usually got a couple of marketing teams all around me, like different marketers and publicists and booking agents and stuff like that. And so yeah, it's changed in that I have to decline so much stuff just because there's not enough time in the day to do everything, So I have to be somewhat selective, but luckily it's usually not me doing the selecting. The publicist and all those people, they just tell me, okay, you're gonna do this one, and there's four more you're not doing, but that's the way it is. And so I just do whatever they say, and it seems to work out. I found if I get too involved in it, it all just goes bad.
right. And I suppose too, if you've got the marketing team and the publicist telling you
Mhm.
what to do, then you've got more time and more brain capacity to
Yeah,
be, doing what we want to be doing, which is the
yeah,
creativity and the writing.
exactly. You were talking earlier about having 8 hours and just kind of twiddling your thumbs for 8 hours. That's the same way for me. If I ever have a day where I look ahead of it and I think, oh, I can get up at 7:30 and write until 10 o'clock in like hour and a half little jumps. I generally won't do that because that is it's a different sort of time. To me, the time I write best in is stolen time. If I'm supposed to be picking somebody up at the airport, if I'm supposed to be at a meeting, if I'm supposed to be like going to the UPS office to get a lost package or whatever it is, if I tell myself, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to write a story. I'm going to write a chapter instead. Then I'd get so much more work done. I just think stolen time is so much more precious. You just got to deal with the disappointment of all the people around you because they're the ones you're stealing time from.
No, no, I totally relate
Hmm.
to that. And
Hmm.
I mean, it is because, as you said, it's precious. So,
Hmm.
I mean, at the moment, I have a 3-month-old son. So, any
Hmm.
writing time is, very much in the
Hmm.
cracks between everything else that encompasses. But it means
Hmm.
that when I get to sit down and I write, I am bloody well writing because it's probably
Hmm.
going to be the only
Yeah.
hour or, let's be honest, 40-minute chunk that I've
Oh,
got
you're
in that
ex-
day. Yeah.
exactly, and you treat each sentence differently when you've got a 3-month-old sleeping in the other room because they can wake up at any period, And so this might be the last sentence. This might be the last sentence. That might be the last sentence, and that to me is wonderful.
Yeah. And sometimes he's not even sleeping the other end. He's in the carrier. I am
Yeah.
writing and
Yeah.
his head is there.
That's how I wrote Demon Theory. I wrote it in a chair that had a busted back, so it would lean back far. And so I would lean back with my son on my chest and reach forward, and I wrote the whole book with him on my chest.
Yeah. Yeah. But then, we contrast that to the 8-hour days. And well, since I've got 8 hours,
Mhm.
oh, I can waste 1 hour. It doesn't, time becomes
Yeah,
less precious.
it does. Yeah.
And then, like, I'll tend
Hmm.
to then waste more time and
Hmm.
then be annoyed at myself
Yeah, I
for
know.
wasting
I
the
know.
time. So you
Yeah,
might as well plan to busy yourself within the
I
day.
totally agree. Yeah, like the more I commit to, the more I get done. So that, I don't know why. I wish it didn't work like that because it leaves me pretty exhausted.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, we've got a number of Patreon questions, so I
Cool.
want to ask those now so we don't run out of
Yeah.
time and
Yeah.
neglect
Let's do it.
them. So, to begin with, from Tino Ybarra. So Tino says, just finished Killer on the Road. Was it set in the 90s to keep cell phones out of the picture?
Hmm.
uh, or just like that era, or something else?
The reason it was set when it was that I really wanted some cameos in there, some truck cameos like BJ and the Bear and Snowman from Smoking the Bandit. There's a few like different iconic big rigs and big rig associated like cars in Killer of the Road. Just you see them in the background, you know, and if you know them, you know them. If you don't, it doesn't matter that you don't. But to get those onto the highway and be recognized by Harper and her friends, or one of her friends, anyways, I couldn't set it up in 2018 because nobody thinks about Sheriff Lobo and BJ and the Bear in 2018. But in the 90s, the 80s were still in our rearview mirror. In the 80s is when all those things were moving through the world, you know. So it's basically just because I wanted those truck cameos. That's why I said it then.
I love it. It all came down to trucks, and that is, you know, other people you'd be like, is that really the answer? But with you, I can absolutely believe it.
That is like the most Stephen Graham Jones answer you could ever get. Like, it's the epitome.
Well, Arthos Vinicius wants to know about the creation of Jade from Indian Lake and the protagonist from Mongrels, and what inspired the appearance of Dark Mill South. Wow, that's a 3-in-1.
Yeah, that's a lot. Dark Mill South, as I say in the acknowledgments of Don't Fear the Reaper, like I always misheard Jerry Reed's song. Oh, now I'm blanking on the title. Amos Moses. I always like. There's a character in there called Doc Millsap, and I always have misheard that as Dark Mill South, and so that's where his name comes from. As for why he was in that book, it's because I needed basically like to do that magician thing where you keep this hand moving so the other hand can do something, you know. And he was that moving hand. He was the the thing in the story that was obviously, you know, a mad dog killer kind of thing, you know. And so while he was pulling the reader's eyes that way, I could do some other fun stuff on the other side of the story. As for where Jade came from, she didn't show up in the first draft of My Heart is a Chainsaw. I wrote that first draft in 2013, and it was a wildly, wildly different novel. And I came back to it in 2018. I thought, you know, there's something there. I think it's my first time I've ever done that too. And so I thought I'm just going to rewrite this whole novel from the ground up. And I kept a version of Sheriff Hart. I kept Sheriff Hardy. He used to be Sheriff D'Agostino, I think. And I kept Indian Lake, and I kept Terra Nova and Proof Rock. But I don't think any other characters made it across the divide from draft to draft. And I wrote it, and it wasn't working, so I kind of scrubbed it and started all over. And this time, I thought it might be fun to tell the story from the morning after the massacre. And I didn't know what the massacre was going to be. I knew there was going to be dead people in the water. And so I did that. I walked the story out onto the pier, and there was bodies floating all in the lake, which I thought was a pretty cool visual. And then I had to ask myself, who's going to tell this story? And who told the story was Jade. She, like, if y'all remember in Apocalypse Now, when Martin Sheen is in the river and he comes up in that face paint out of the water, you know, that's what Jade did. She comes up out of the water. There's a draft of it where she does that. She comes up out of the water, and she has a notebook, and she's doing her muttering, and she's talking about how she's going to figure out what happened here. And that's going to be the book that gets her out of Idaho. And so that's how Jade happened, you know. As for the kid in Mongrels, he's pretty much me, so he was really easy. Like him and Tolly from I Was a Teenage Slasher are very, very thinly disguised versions of me, so they took no work at all, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, talking about slashers, one of the things you said in your acknowledgements for this book is that you are always telling your wife slasher stories, but she doesn't actually like slashers.
No, she doesn't. But she's the only one there. What am I supposed to do?
Have you at least ever found a slasher film or a slasher story that appealed to her? And if not, is this why you keep telling her? You're like, look,
maybe I'm
gotta
looking.
be one.
Yeah,
There's one
yeah.
for her.
Yeah, I mean, if she would read I Was a Teenage Slasher, she might go for it because it's kind of a love story, you know. But no, I don't think I found one that she actually goes for. I think if I could ever get her to watch Final Girls from 2015, she might go for that one. It's kind of goofy, you know, and slapstick, but it's got a really tender heart, I think.
So if you do, or when you do watch films together,
Mhm.
what's
Mhm.
kind of the compromise? What do you
Oh,
like
oh,
watching together?
we're all over the place, man. It can be a spy movie. It can be, it can be Step Brothers. Like we watch all kinds of stuff. I think the last movie we watched together, it was 2 nights ago, was Jay Kelly on Netflix, which was fun. And before that, it was one of the Agatha Christie's Appointment with Death. That's what it was like
Mm,
from. And so we're just all over the board. But the one place that we always know we can find where we can meet in the middle is any Star Trek. We can watch any Star Trek all the time.
yeah, yeah. No, the movies you mentioned that are on Netflix, they're both on my to watch list. But again, having the 3-month-old son, there's not been a lot
Yeah.
of watching
No, there's not.
recently.
There's not. Yeah.
Yeah, and certainly not watching stuff with my wife. It's more like, in those cracks in between when I'm looking after him and
Yeah.
maybe put something on, like, on the computer and through the
Mhm.
headphones. So,
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
that kind of how you watch a lot of slashers these days? Are you having to find
Yeah.
these secret pockets of time when
Mhm.
your
No, I
wife
can. I can.
isn't?
My evenings are generally pretty free, so
Yeah.
I can watch a slasher when I want to. And I do, of course. I try to go to the theater for them when I can, just
Oh,
support
yeah.
them, in the way
Yeah.
that will help more of them get to the big screen. But yeah, I watch a lot of them at home as well, and I carry them with me on my laptop so I can watch them when traveling. Also.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what is it that you're working on at the
Mhm.
moment?
Mhm. Let's see. I think in the last 2 weeks I've sold two stories. Well, maybe I guess I can't say to where. Maybe I can say to where. One is to Uncanny. One is to Conjunctions. One's a literary story. One is kind of a science fiction story. Um, and I'm currently in notes on something that has not been announced. So I'll definitely get my wrist slapped if I talk about that. But it's very fast notes. I'm trying to be done. I started it 3 days ago, and I'm trying to be done in about 8 days from now. So I've got a tall order to get because I want to get done before I go on tour for Mannequins because I don't want to bring work with me. I want to do other work while I'm on the road with Mannequins.
See, before I said that the difficulty with promotion is that it's
Mm-hmm.
been a long time since you wrote the book, but
Mm-hmm.
now we've discovered the other difficulty is what you are working on. You usually can't talk about, so there's
Yeah,
actually
yeah, yeah.
it's lose-lose. There's
I
nothing.
know. It's like there's a really wide chasm in the middle, and there's like a little happy place on each side. You know.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And I mean, I said before about you living kind of near Hollywood. I mean, nearer
Mm-hmm.
than me, at least. I am aware California is a pretty big state,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
do you have any kind of movie news that you can
Mm-hmm.
talk about? That's probably a big
Not that I
caveat.
not that I can talk about. I did write. A producer right when Mannequins came out. A producer wanted me to. They loved it, and they said, "Get me a script." And so, I can do scripts. So I wrote one up, and then it didn't go. It ended up not going anywhere. So I just had it in a drawer. And then I saw a film that I really liked on Tubi, and I ended up meeting the director. And the director, I probably shouldn't say who it is. He he is it's a guy. I guess I'm saying that already, right? He really liked Mannequins, and I showed him the script, and he rewrote the script such that it fit kind of his aesthetic and what he thought this where he thought the story could go. And so Mannequins is currently bouncing around trying to find a happy place to get made. But yeah, like Buffalo Hunter and Good Indians, Teenage Slasher are all in different stages of maybe right now, and they've got different people attached, but none of it has been announced. I never really pushed for it getting announced. I just figure it'll find the news when it finds the news, whatever.
Yeah,
Mhm.
different stages of maybe is
Yeah.
pretty much par for the course for so much
Yeah.
within Hollywood.
Yeah. It really is. Yeah.
I mean, especially because typically or kind of traditionally the Hollywood no is just walking away. So even a
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
it's a strong negative, maybe, I suppose, because it's
yeah.
never a straight no.
No, you're right. You're right. But what's cool about all three of these projects is they have really, really good people attached to them right now, and so they each have a good chance like of those three projects, I would guess at least two of them find production, and hopefully distribution. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And when you said I can do scripts, I'm wondering
Hmm.
if that is a Joe R. Lansdale I can do scripts because
Hmm.
famously,
Hmm.
he said, "Oh, I can write a script," and then had to learn how to write a
Yeah.
script in about
Yeah.
24 hours.
Yeah.
Or is
Yeah.
this that you're
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
regularly or
Yeah.
semi-regularly writing scripts?
Joe did that for Dead in the West. Is that right? I
I, th-
think was it
I
Dead in the
think,
West?
I think so.
Yeah,
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 yeah. And he talks about his son under the desk hitting him with a plastic hammer in the crotch the whole
yeah.
time.
I mean, I don't know if that's a motivator, but it's fucking something, isn't it? That's one way to do it.
No, no, man. Joe is the best. I've like if I could claim anybody as a mentor for me, it'd be Joe Lansdale because he's taught me so much. We've hung out so much, but he's somebody who's been and done. He's been through everything and done it all, and he remembers it all, and he's a model of how we should all comport ourselves. And I really feel honored to call him a friend, and he's definitely an idol. But no, back when this would have been 2001. I signed on with outfit in New York City to write thrillers for them, and they didn't trust me to have my own brain to write thrillers, and so they pushed me through all the Robert McKee seminars. Do you know about those Robert McKee seminars, the story seminars? He's got story, and he's got
I do,
yeah, and
yeah.
and so
Mhm.
they flew me all over everywhere, and I went to a lot of weekends of those, and I had already taken screenwriting classes in graduate school, and I had been writing screenplays on my own, not with any plans. I was just trying to figure out the form, and I got a lot more of it from that seminar. And then I started hanging out with screenwriters. I started teaching at a little residency program that had a lot of screenwriters, and we were always talking movies, talking scripts. And I mean, Demon Theory kind of comes out of my fascination with screenplays. It's that hybrid prose plus, I don't know, screenplay syntax or format. And I did that again in Last Final Girl. I did it in Zombie Bake Off. I really love writing in that form. But I really like scripts, and what I like about scripts is how rigid they are. I love the beats, the formula, and I'm very aware that most fiction writers, when they sit down to write a script, the main challenge is how can I make this story fit in that formatting, but that's not what it is. It's like you've got to tear it down to little building blocks and puzzle them together in a completely different way and strip out so much stuff and leave room for the director to leave their imprint, the whoever's and the actors to leave their flavor on it and everything. Scripts are terribly, terribly hard, but sometimes you read one like by Shane Black or somebody, and you're like, that is how it's done. And or like Eric Red, that dude's scripts. I think his scripts are killer.
Yeah, it's a completely different process, and it's very
Hmm.
much a collaboration, and I feel
Hmm.
you really can't be so precious about the
No,
story because, I mean,
no.
they could completely change it. They could bring in a
Hmm.
different writer to rewrite
Yeah,
your
yeah,
script, and
yeah.
as you say, it's not. And apart from very rare occurrences such as Roman Polanski's adaptation of Rosemary's Baby, it's rarely a
Hmm.
kind of beat by beat
Yeah,
faithful
yeah.
retelling. It's almost like a cover version. It's like we're
No, I
riffing
agree.
on it.
But sometimes it's better than the book too. Those are
Yeah.
really exciting when that happens. But there are those very few writers who have the ability to adapt their own work, like Gillian Flynn. Is it Gillian or Gillian? I always get that confused. But the Gone Girl writer and
Yeah,
Sharp
I
Objects and
think
all that.
it's Gillian.
Gillian,
I think
okay,
it
Gillian Flynn.
yeah.
Yeah, she wrote. I mean, she did the screenplay for the Gone Girl film, if I remember correctly, and I was really impressed with that because, like, I got offered to write the script for Buffalo Hunter, and I declined. I said, this book is going to take a lot of violence to fit into 2.5 hours, and I'm not sure I'm the one that's going to have the objectivity to do that violence. We need someone from the outside who can do that, and because I care about the project more than like my name and a credit or something, or maybe I do right now. Who knows what the future holds?
Yeah, and in many ways, I mean, your books, we've said before, a lot of your books, they are as near to
Hmm.
a slasher movie without
Hmm.
being
Hmm.
a slasher movie. But then at the same time, if it was a slasher movie, it would be
Hmm.
different as well. So
Yeah,
it's an
that's true.
interesting beast.
Oh, I should have said Last Final Girl. A screenwriter I know, he's done a lot of big horror. He's adapted Last Final Girl into the most killer screenplay. It is so good. I am so impressed with what he did with that, man. Yeah. And
And
also some there's a team who have adapted Mapping the Interior into a killer. I think they did a better job with the feature film adaptation than I did with the novella. And I had a friend recently adapt my story Welcome to the Reptile House to a feature film, and that was one of those cases where there wasn't enough story content for like an hour and 20 minutes, so he came up with more stuff and made it sing so well, you know.
and in terms of when your stories are being pitched to studios, are you getting involved in those pitches?
I'm usually zoomed in, yeah, and I try not to say anything unless people ask. You know, I'm just there to like. It's weird. Like I remember being in a Zoom with Susan Sarandon not long ago, and I was like, "This is not something like 17-year-old Steven ever thought was going to happen." You know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've been part of a few pitches recently for one of my
Mhm.
books, and it's one of the most surreal
Yeah.
but also amazing experiences, and
Mhm.
talking
Mhm.
about things that
Mhm.
you wouldn't have
Yeah.
imagined doing as a
Yeah. No, for
child. I
sure.
mean,
For sure.
but
Yeah.
so much of this journey, and it must be the same for
Mhm.
you. There are things where it's like, wow, if my teenage self had
Mhm.
known that I was going to be doing this or talking to
Mhm.
these people, it's
Yeah. No, definitely, 100%, man. It's always weird. What really impresses me with those pitch sessions is like let's say Mongrels is going out and I'll do like 10 pitches in a row over 7 days, and it'll always be the writer doing the pitching. I'm just there to say he's good or something like that, you know. And I'm so impressed that this writer has like they turn on their pitch button and they can just get into salesman mode, and they are condensing and making it exciting and dropping jokes at the right time, and somebody's running the pitch deck, the lookbook, that kind of stuff, the slideshow, and it's really impressive. It's a really well-oiled machine. I like to watch it.
yeah. And they ask for your input, and you're like, well,
Yeah.
exactly what he said. That was exactly what was about to come out of my mouth.
Yeah,
It has
exactly.
been
Yeah.
covered.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
Well, I wonder what is something new that you have learned about writing or the business of writing in the
Mhm.
last year?
I feel like I learn it all the time, but and I'm learning it right now when I'm in notes on this thing. Um, that the order of the clauses in a sentence make all the difference. I know it's such an obvious thing to say, but if it's so obvious, why can't I internalize it and just do it right the first time? So when I'm peeling through this book, I'll realize this sentence will have 3 commas, but it could get by with 0 commas if I reorder the clauses. And what I use to remind myself that there's a clearer, more direct way to write is I'll go back and read Steven Pinker's book, something like A Sense of Style or something. It's a style book. It's a big one.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it is called Sense of
Okay.
Style, but I know
Yeah.
exactly the one you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's real. He is so, and he both talks about how to do it well, and he does it well while he's talking about it. So he like embodies it at the same time, which is really more compelling.
Yeah, that was one that came out in 2014, and
Hmm.
I think I actually picked it up because you recommended it on the podcast.
Probably so. It's good, man. I like it. I don't know
Yeah,
anything about Steven Pinker. I think he's at MIT. That's all I know about him. But I like the way he writes, anyways, and
yeah,
thinks. Yeah.
yeah. Well, to finish, I've got a bit of a
Yeah.
hypothetical for
Yeah.
you. In fact, I've got a whole hypothetical. It isn't just a bit of it. That would be a really weird question.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But if you couldn't write novels in the horror genre, would you
Hmm.
rather write horror in another medium, or would you rather write in a different genre?
Different genre. for sure. Like I belong on the fiction page, I think. I mean, I can do comic books. I love comic books. So they're such a part of my DNA. And I love film and television and all that. And stage plays blow me away. And musicals, I love all that stuff. But the fiction page is my home. So if I was somehow barred from writing horror, if I like used up all my credits, and then maybe I write action or westerns or romantic comedies or just comedy. I don't know. I do, but I love getting it all right on the page. It just thrills me so much.
Yeah, I can imagine, you being told to write like a romance, and then if
Mm-hmm.
we look at
Mm-hmm.
it, it's like structurally, he's done a fucking slasher. He's
Yeah. Oh,
cheated.
definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely. I mean, I think the rom com and the slasher they have the same beats. It's just what
yeah,
counts is what's gore in one is like a makeout in another.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Well, this has been tremendously fun, as it always
Mm-hmm.
is, chatting with you. So,
Thank you. It's been a ball. It's been too long since we talked, huh?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. No, we'll have to do it much sooner
Mm-hmm.
next time. But for our listeners and our viewers, where can people connect with you?
StephenGrahamJones.com and Blue Sky. Those are my main two places I hang out. I think I have an account still on Instagram. My publisher was running it for a while. I think it's still active, but also
You do, because it also has like some disclaimer that says
yeah,
this is
yeah,
not Stephen
yeah,
Graham Jones. This is ran
yeah,
by his marketing team.
yeah, yeah. And oh, I guess I'm on Goodreads too. I have an account there and lots of friends and stuff like that. I don't really know what to do on Goodreads. I don't know how to use Goodreads totally, but I'm there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that your Instagram has got something saying explicitly it's not you. And then there is a profile on X, formerly Twitter, that says,
That's
I
right.
am not
Yeah.
here. Don't follow me. This is just a placeholder so that no trolls, or however you phrased
Yeah.
it, take
Yeah.
over the account.
I forgot about that. That's totally right. Yeah, I spent like for 2 or 3 months. There were all these like whack-a-mole accounts popping up that were pretending to be me, using my own avatar photos and stuff like that, and I couldn't tell the difference. I'm like, well, did I say that? But I didn't say that.
I don't know. I mean, it probably becomes obvious when they're like, "And buy this mattress, and here's a 20% coupon code." Wow,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
was I ingesting when I put that post up?
Times are tough. He's peddling the Ray-Bans. Here we
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Here we go.
Oh man.
All right. Well, do you have any final thoughts to leave our listeners with?
Don't turn your back on a mannequin. That's basically it, man.
You can't get much better than that. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.